Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, all right. Just
Mhm.
try. I don't know where Stephen is, or Stefan, but I guess we can just go over our stuff here. So this is our, I guess, first meeting of the. Well, it's not really our first meeting. This is still the community period. So, um, have you guys been reading the stuff I sent you, the links and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's interesting.
How about Jesse? Have you been reading the links? Okay. Have you found anything really interesting that you'd like to discuss or know more about? Or
Uh, if I understood correctly, Stefan is going to focusing on the evolution of the nervous system, right?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, he's got a little bit different approach than what you're taking,
Okay.
and the idea would be like to, have you guys doing different, taking different approaches to it.
Yeah. His idea is pretty creative, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Jesse's got something here. I'm still gathering a lot and going into things. I've actually found the representations and cognition book, but I'm just getting started on that. I know there are maybe some other more immediate things to look at, so I'm too balancing. I'm curious about the using and developing genetic algorithms. I haven't worked with them too much before. Yeah, they're very interesting, but they're also very tricky to get to implement. So, well, you'll see when we review the board what the I would recommend that if people are interested in using similar tools, that you share the resources, and we'll figure out how to do that as we go along. But what I want to kind of avoid is that if people want to use genetic algorithms, we have like a single method that we're using, drawing from. If Stefan has a good reference for genetic algorithms, like a good toolbox, then we should try to use that same toolbox for different things. It's just simply because it's easier to like kind of stay on top of and work through problems. We can help each other out instead of like working on two different toolboxes or something at the same time. So yes, Stefan, I think supplied some references to genetic algorithms. I have some as well, so I'm going to try to dig those out and bring them into the reading list for reference. That might help, and then we'll talk about it as we go along. And so if we have any questions, we'll be able to ask each other in Slack, and then if we use a common, say, toolbox, if we settle on a toolbox early, we can just debug the toolbox. If one person's using it for one thing, one person's using it for another, at least we have the implementation part solved. So uh, okay, so we have that. Now let me talk about our board for a minute. I think I mentioned this before. Um, if you go into the uh, GSA, if you go to the, let me see if I can get the link here. Okay, here's a link to the repository. And if you go to this repository, you'll see that there's a tab called Projects, and it has a 1 next to it. And if you link to that, you'll see a project, and then click through that on that link to the project, Group Meetings Review, and then it'll get you into this project board. And so this project board has 3 parts. It's to do, in progress, and done. And so what we're going to do throughout the course of the summer is we're going to create issues, as you can see these issues here, and we're going to move them across the board. So we'll have to do, in progress, done. And I already have some issues on here, kind of based on what we've had in the first week, and that so we'll address each issue, and then I want you to actually come up with issues on your own. Like, I want you to come up with an issue if you think that there's something that needs to be addressed, or if you can, if you want to split up an issue that we've made, think about it and say, okay, I need to do these steps before we get to solving the bigger issue. Or we can combine issues if you think it's like if they're all solvable together in a group. So we have a couple of issues now. We have exchange proposals, and then that's been done because it's already been done. And you'll see that I have like little icons next to the name of the issue, and that's because that's how I can assign it to people. So I'll probably put you on. I've put all of you. Actually, I can't. I sent Jesse an invite to this board. I don't know if he got the invitation. I think I sent him a message on Slack about it. If you can just accept that invitation, then I can put his name on there. Okay. So when, as we go through the summer, I've got all of you on certain issues now, but like going through the summer, there will be issues where 1 or 2 people will be on one. And then, you'll be able to keep track of your own issues. This is a good way, like in the future, if you work on projects, it's a good way to like make sure that people take ownership of an issue, so it doesn't fall through the cracks. So you can say, okay, this is my issue specifically. How do I finish it? What do I need to do? Instead of just having it on the board and then everyone avoiding it. So we'll do that. We'll create issues as we need to, and then we will sign them. So we have the exchange proposals. Then we have our work on presentations. So you guys have been working on presentations. I told you that we were going to shoot for a June 1st deadline for that. So that's in 2 weeks. We can present them at this meeting. How are you guys comfortable with that? Do you need any help? I mean, if you need any help with the...
Yeah. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying to see if Jesse's in this GitHub. But yeah, it should be. I'll probably have to refresh it later. I'll do it later. Okay, yeah. So I mean, if you have any questions about it, let me know, and I'll be happy to help you. So it'll be June 1st, and then we'll just go over. You'll go over your proposal and just put it into PowerPoint slides, and then the last couple of slides would be like, where do I envision this going? I mean, now that you wrote your proposal and now you've like gotten into it a little bit more, where do you envision this going? It's a little bit broader than the proposal because the proposal was just a description. So, if you have any questions, again, you can ask me. So then when we're done with that, then we'll move this issue into done. Okay, so then we have a couple more in the to-do category, which is documentation with Jupyter Notebooks. So are you both familiar with Jupyter Notebooks?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to use that as a way to, like, if you're creating something with code, to put it into a Jupyter Notebook and then commit it to your repo. You can either use this repo, or I've got like a couple of, I think I've got Ziyi's and Stefan's repo forked, the one that they use for their proposals. And so if you want to do that, we can do that too. Just make sure that it's committed somewhere so we can review it. Okay, good. We can review it at the meetings. We'll go through the, we might. So the way the meetings will be structured is the first part of the meeting. We might have some demos of people, we'll ask you what you did over the week, and then you might have a demo to show us, this is what I did, and this is what I'm having maybe a problem with. And then after that, we'll go through this board, and we'll see what the issues are that we have with different things. And I'd like to keep all the issues kind of on this board. So if you have any issues that you want to solve, you can put those issues on the board yourself. So you go up to this plus in each column, or in the to-do column, and you click on the plus, and it says enter a note, and then you type in your issue, you click add, and then once it's added, so let's say I'll just test an issue, I'll add it here, and then it'll come down below, and then I click on these 3 buttons to the right hand side of the issue, and then it says in that menu it says convert to issue, and so then you can just convert that to an issue, and then it's a live issue, and then we'll move it across the board as necessary. So you can put your own issues on here during the week. Yeah, there you go. Or we can put in, issues at the meeting. It doesn't really matter. But just make sure, putting them in yourself means you won't forget what they are. So that's good. So let's go through the rest of these in the to-do. So we have the documentation, Jupyter notebooks, shared resources. That's again what I was talking about before, where we can just take like some, if we have a common thing like a genetic algorithm, we'll decide on a toolbox, and then we'll use that toolbox. We'll share it in a common place, maybe on the GitHub repo, and then we'll just go from there, and we'll have the same set of issues on the same toolbox. So it's it's not like we're trying to solve multiple things at once, for the same reason. And then the third one is setting up programming environments. So that's like something that we should do before the coding period begins, but just something in general that you can do before you really get into the meat of the project, which is to make sure your programming environments work. And so I don't know where you are on that, but that's just kind of, I'm just putting that in to remind people to keep on with that. Also, if you had something that you thought you might want to do later in the summer, it might be good to see if it can be implemented now. And so that way it's a little bit, you don't go down the road and you're about halfway through your project, and then you can't do the next part. Because we have time now to debug these things. So I ask people, are there any issues that you'd like to put on the board? You can put them on, or I'll put them on.
Can you guys hear me all right at this point?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, that's good. Hi, I'm Jesse. I'm in voice room. I don't have anything at the moment, but I feel like I will shortly.
Yeah, if you you can put them on the board later after the meeting. I showed you how, and I think I'll get a notification, so that's okay. So any other issue about Ziyi? Can you think of any other issues that we should put up here?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's something. Yeah, we'll kind of go through every week, but if we have, it'll become apparent once you start in with stuff. So we haven't really started in yet. In my other group, we've actually started in with some things, so we already have like a board that's pretty populated. So once you start getting into the programming phase, you'll have a lot of things that'll come up. Okay. There anything I'm missing? Can you think of anything we need to address?
So, just a question about the adding to the board. Is that pretty much, is that like any general question that you want to bring to the team or have people look at with you?
Yeah. Just any issue, you can just put it in the make an issue, and then there's a description below, and then anything you think is like something you want to bring up,
Okay.
and then we can break it up later into different parts. It's actually good to have it like just general because we can like keep track of it like as a general idea, and then break it apart at the meeting and say, okay, how are we gonna solve this?
Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I, I think you talked about like presenting papers, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah, I think that was okay.
I mean, like written in the email, in the very first email to us. Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
curious.
Well, we can do that actually. Let me put that on the list here. Well, I mean, yeah. So if you want to present papers, we can do that. I forgot I mentioned that during the meeting, or I think the first, or maybe during the okay, present papers during the application period. But yes, I think that's something we could do. We have this project is oriented more towards like, we have to like review peer-reviewed literature to kind of figure out where we're going. I think a lot of the Braitenberg stuff is like there are a lot of papers where they're doing things that are relevant, but it's hard to really kind of understand it. So I think that would be good if we could do a presentation in that first part of the meeting where we're doing the show and tell. I think that might be good. Maybe a 10 to 15-minute presentation of a paper that would just suffice for a demo. And we could say, okay, here's a paper that I found that's relevant. And then the idea would be, you'd have like the PowerPoint presentation, you'd bring it in, and you'd describe it. I know you've done journal clubs before, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so you'd talk a little bit about it and say, here's the relevance of the paper, and then how we might make it relevant to this project. Just something not too long, but just something that we can have a reference for.
Okay.
Okay. So actually, I got a message from Stefan, and he said he's logging in. I don't know if he's going to make it here. I'm going to wait for him a little bit here. Let's see. Okay. Let me see. Make sure he's in the right place. Do we have any other thoughts while we're waiting here?
Will there be outside of? I know it's kind of dependent on your own projects, but will there be anything specifically, given that we may have our broader presentations due in June? Is there anything specific for next week? I imagine you're probably going to address that later too.
Well, I think next week we'll just keep working on the presentations. This is still the community period, so
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I encourage you. All right, so you guys actually, I saw that there was some interaction in the channel with respect to the proposals. So I don't know. Have you guys like found anything? I mean, you found that useful, obviously, but have you found anything interesting in the other proposals that might be something to follow up on, or? I mean, I think next week we'll just kind kind of follow up on, check in and make sure everyone's doing okay, and maybe we'll just talk more about that actually. And then, I don't know, do you want to do a presentation of a paper, or do you think you're probably pretty, you already have your larger presentation to work on? I don't want to make it too hard for you to manage.
Yeah, I think if any of us just find an interesting paper at the end of the week, we can just talk on Slack that I've found this and I want to present next week, so something like that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Let me actually put that in the issue. So here's an example. We'll just do like present papers, and then I think this is where it's the description here. Pick a paper, post in Slack. All right, and then it's a 10 to 15 minute presentation. All right, there we go. And then update comment. So now that present papers number 7 has a comment on it. If you go in and you can see, and it was just like I added it as a comment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not quite sure where Stefan is, but I don't know. I don't want to make you wait around too long if you don't want to stay. Any other questions or issues you want to raise before we go?
Do you expect us to put our slides on the Slack before the presentations?
Well, you don't have to put the slides. I mean, I probably put the paper up like a while before, just so people know what it is. Oh, there he is. And just like, but the slides, we can put the slides up after. It doesn't matter, but just as long as people get a general idea what you're going to present. So that's good. All right. Hi, Stefan.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize myself once again. I somehow thought that we don't yet meet this week, that's why
we had a technical difficulty too, so I'm still working on the meeting space. I don't know why it wasn't responding, but so all right, let me introduce you. Of course, Jesse and Ziyi, you met them last time. I just wanted to go over a couple of things. We have the project board, and let me get the link for you. Mm-hmm. So we have this, let me put it in the chat here. We have this project board. If you go to this repository link, and there's a tab that says projects with a 1 by it. If you go in there and click on the group meetings review.
Oh, yep. Yes, I see
You'll see the board. Okay, so then now we have this board, and we've got to do, in progress, and done. And what I was telling everyone else is that what you can do is every week we're going to go through and we're going to address these issues, or at least go through them and see what we've addressed during the week and what we need to address. So you might want to add issues to this board, and you can do that. You go in and you type in an issue, and you can save it and then turn it into an issue. There's a dialogue within this issue to do that. And then you might add an issue that's very general, and then we'll come to the meeting and break it into parts, or we might combine issues. So this is just something when you're working on projects that you can, you can think about it a little bit more, put the issue up over the course of the week, and then we can address it in the meeting. And then we'll have a meeting. Our meetings will be something like where we'll all get together in the first 15 to 20 minutes. We'll do like demos, or maybe Ziyi was talking about presenting papers. So, you might find a paper you really like and you post the paper in Slack, and then you do like a 10 to 15 minute slideshow on why the paper is important and why it's relevant to the project. So we have that part of the meeting, and then we'll review the issues in the second part of the meeting, and then everyone will have a say in that. If they want to change the issues, or if it's solved or what. So also I was talking about how we've been talking about resources. So you were sharing with Jesse some stuff on genetic algorithms, and I suggested that we have like a common sort of set of tools. So you have a set of I don't know if you have a toolbox in mind for the genetic algorithms, but we should kind of put our heads together on what kind of toolbox we want to use for that, and just use the same one, so we can like solve issues together. We don't have to okay, you're using this toolbox, you're using that toolbox. It's twice the work to kind of get it debugged. So
But with this, I totally get what you mean. It's a good idea, but I just don't really know how we would then combine, several languages. I don't know which languages others are using, but I thought about using Kotlin basically, or Java, and maybe somebody's using Python. So that would be a language discrepancy.
Yeah, it might be a problem. I didn't think about that. Well, we'll talk about that as we go along. I don't think it's. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. As an idea, I mean, yes, of course.
Yeah, I would still share. But also be careful with that implementation-wise, because I want to make sure that we get something that isn't like really hard to implement. Like, I don't want people to go down a road and say, I'm going to implement this, and then it doesn't. Because I had this problem last summer with where it was hard to implement the toolbox. You really had to spend some time on it. And so, we really want to avoid going like 4 or 5 weeks into a implementation where we can't figure out how to implement it. And that's just something to be aware of when you're doing projects. It's like, is this thing actually going to be feasible, in the long term? It might look cool, but it's like, is it something we can actually use again, or, is it implementable? I also wanted to bring your attention on one issue. Are you familiar with Jupyter Notebooks?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we'll use that for our code. If you put code in notebooks and commit them to the repo, that's how we'll kind of showcase the code. Because at the end of the project, in your case, you're submitting a formal project. You have to have things that run. I guess they require you to they click a link and then it has to run from there. So it's like everything has to be in place. So
I just yesterday I just discovered a really great stuff. So there's a possibility to write Kotlin code, which has a backward compatibility with Java from Jupyter Notebooks. So theoretically, I could even showcase the project this way, that I would write documentation and some chunks of code, which would connect to the main classes of the simulation, and then just show some results,
Yeah. You don't have to implement the whole thing in notebooks, but the idea in notebooks is to have like a sort of a place where you can display the code and annotate it.
But yeah, sure. Yeah, I get it totally.
Yeah. But there are a lot of nice tools in Jupyter Notebooks. They're coming up every day, I guess. People are developing all sorts of plugins and things. So that might be something to check out for people too. If you see some nice features, that's a nice baseline from which to use those features. So, well, we can talk about that later on in the summer. So, any other issues that we want to bring up before we go?
Yeah, still didn't really understand which is when we would present a project.
Oh yeah. So we'll present target date of June 1st. So that's in 2 weeks at this meeting
All
time.
right.
So yeah, is that enough time? I mean, it should be.
I did so, yeah.
Yeah, it should be okay. And then it's like you'll do a review of your project proposal, and then the last few slides will be like, how do I want to take this to a broader context? Now that I've been in the org for a couple weeks and thought about it more, you know, so it's like it's not too hard, but it's like, you know, you're gonna get a nice baseline presentation, and then at the end we'll see what happens with it. So, okay, and then so next week we're going to talk about what are we going to talk about? I know I had mentioned before.
You mentioned paper presentations and just dealing with issues as they come up.
Yeah. So we'll next week we'll see where we are with issues. Hopefully people, you know, talk a little bit more on Slack about what they want to do in terms of the, you know, specific implementations, and maybe someone wants to present a paper, we can do that. So we'll be meeting, I guess if this is convenient, we'll be meeting at this time every week. Unless we have a problem, we can talk about it beforehand. We can reschedule, but this is probably the best time for everyone, as far as I could tell. And, you know, let me know if you can't make it. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming. And if you have any questions during the week, let me know in Slack, or, you know, I guess that's the best place to message me. And then we're bringing it, you know, put it into GitHub and as an issue. And